Okay, that's good. Recording has started. So pardon me if you see me looking at the other side. I have my other PC here as well, just monitoring the chat as well as those that are in the waiting room. But irrespective, I'm with you. So welcome everyone once again to this webinar. I am Olumide Shede. I'm a recent graduate from who studied entrepreneurship and innovation at the University of Edinburgh. On the fully funded Mastercard Foundation scholarship. And to a very large extent, I can literally relate. Just give me a second. Let me mute this. Yeah. So as I was saying, I can literally, I understand, a lot of people have so much questions that it would actually be very good to get clarity on as to, the application process, what the scholarship is all about, what the scholarship committee looks out for, to the best of my own understanding, how to make your personality, the works that you've done, how to make all of that stand out. So those are things that we'll be discussing, on this call. And I also plan to make this very interactive in the sense that I would have colleagues that would also join us for the Q&A session. So the Q&A session will be very, very interactive as well. So this is how this meeting is going to go. We've started and we plan to, what I'm going to be doing is just like a very quick masterclass kind of, which would wrap up around 5:30-ish. Thereafter, we would commence with the Q&A with the recent alumni across various programs. So when you guys were filling the form, I asked you guys to signify which course you actually want to apply for, and I reached out to about the top six recurring courses that people selected, and we have them, so they'll be here. A quick housekeeping: you can use the chat for questions. If you have questions, even when I'm speaking, I would really appreciate if you do not unmute, as that might distort my flow of thoughts. So just use the chat. Alternatively, you can also raise your hands, but raising your hands, there would actually be a designated time where I would allow those that raise their hands to speak, just to cover all that we have to cover, because we have just 1 hour 30 minutes. So as I said, also mute yourself if you're not talking, and basically I expect you to have questions, so drop the questions. So let's get started. So right now, as I've said, welcome once again. I believe that everybody that is on this call, this is not the first time you're hearing about the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship. You might not necessarily know so much about it, but at least you've heard about the call for application on LinkedIn. And I want to assume that to a very large extent, everyone on this call has at least started, or has actually submitted the first part of the application. So one thing that I noticed in which people sometimes don't know is that even when you register and you want to apply, there is the first part, which is more like the survey, that tries to know if you're eligible and gets some details from you. You need to submit that because the deadline for that is actually earlier than the final deadline, which is November 21st. So please, if you've not yet submitted that first part, please, after this webinar, make sure you do that so you do not miss out. And basically, one thing I also like about the scholarship, the Mastercard scholarship, is Ahmed, I mentioned that if you have any question, please write it in the chat, and I will definitely get to it so that we can cover more ground faster.
Okay.
All right,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I also mentioned that for the one of the reasons why I also like the scholarship is that it's actually very open to anyone. Anyone can apply, in the sense that you do not necessarily need to know someone that knows someone that knows someone before you have your shot. The selection committee is very fair, and you just need to make sure that you actually meet the eligibility criteria while applying. And a quick disclaimer: this is just my personal thought, my experience, insights that I have learned, and things that worked for me, right? So I hope you will be able to get a couple of insights from this. All right. So a quick brief about the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship, my favorite scholarship, as if anyone asked me. So basically, the Mastercard Scholars Program is actually like they fund undergraduates, but also postgraduate studies for across several countries. So there are, aside from the one running currently at the University of Edinburgh, there are other scholarships currently open at other countries. So basically, in the last article I shared, let me see if I still have the link. But in the last article I shared, I added the link there. Possibly before this call ends, I would also send the link here, or maybe send it via email. So you can also check for possibly other schools you might be interested in. But for today's shop, we're looking at the University of Edinburgh. So what are the things, one of the questions I've asked that a lot of people have asked me is that, what is the scholarship about? What are they looking out for? And I'm here to tell you that the scholarship has they have core values that they emphasize, transformative leadership. So transformative leadership, as I mean here, doesn't necessarily mean you have to be like one grand founder or CEO, or that you have your NGO, or you've created like a company or a non-profit in the past. Transformative leadership is all about, taking initiative, noticing a problem within your community, taking action, that's that vibe of just taking action to solve a problem that you've noticed, right? The scholarship is also very big on sustainability and addressing climate change, right? We're going to get into, because one of the recurring questions I also saw is that a lot of people asked, yeah, so a lot of people asked, what if I'm not doing anything that has to do with sustainability or climate change? How do I still position the impact of my work and the contributions that I've done? So all of that would get to, address that in details as we get to the Q&A. The foundation is also very big on giving back, so demonstrating a track record of service. So to you, it might look like, okay, it's something you just did, you just volunteered, but it's actually, the thought counts, the action counts, and then the impact of what you've done also counts. For the eligibility criteria, you feel free to check the website. All of that is there. Also explore the FAQ. There are some questions on the FAQ that, you can also check. But one of the reasons why I like the scholarship, as some of you might know, but I was surprised when I got some questions, if it is partially funded or fully funded. Now, this scholarship is fully funded in the sense that it pays for your full tuition, your monthly living stipend, you get an allowance. They also get your accommodation for you even before, like, this is the soft baby life. They get your accommodation before you get to Edinburgh itself. They also book your tickets, that's to and fro. All the visa navigating, because last year was the first time I even, was like that was the first time I did anything that had to do with visa applications and the like. So the holistic support, they are there to support you with, visa application, the costs, your IELTS, if you have to do your test. We'll talk about the IELTS also during the Q&A. It is not compulsory for all, but we'll talk about that better. Then your tuberculosis test, every other thing, basically the support is holistic. Now, to a very large extent, I'm sure that a lot of you also know that there is the on-campus and then there's the online. So depending on what your schedule is like, you can then choose the course that makes sense for you. Now, just a sneak peek into those that will be joining me today. So these are our panel who would be with us fully by 5:30. So we have colleagues across other courses. And basically, one thing we all share in common is that we've been able to successfully navigate this application process, and we're here to help you do the same. So now what I've done basically is the bulk of the questions would be answered during the Q&A, but I've also created some things, like some insights or snippets that I believe would be able to help you even as you're applying. So as I've said, one thing I've noticed, even with when I've been able to review some essays, and basically you would know, one thing that actually makes applications like your essay stand out is, the thought process that goes behind it. Now, I've said this before on LinkedIn, but I'm going to repeat it again. Before writing, you need to first of all, prepare and think about what exactly is it that you want to communicate. When they read your essay, what impression do you want the whoever it is that is reviewing it to have about you? So this here has to do with you reflecting on what you've been able to do so far. um if your work has to do with the theme of climate, is okay. If it doesn't have to do with the theme of climate, is okay. Then when you think about what you've done, what course in particular do you want to study? To a very large extent, I always encourage people to make sure that whichever course you're studying is something that is kind of in line with what you've been doing in the past. But it's also okay if it's something entirely new and you want to transition into a new field, but just defend or let them know why, right? The vision behind that. And one other thing which I've noticed is that I want you, when you're writing your essays, I want you to think of your essays as a book. It's like a book. If you're reading or you're watching maybe Harry Potter, each scene, each chapter, builds on top of each other, right? So to a very large essence, your essays are continuous. So the way you respond, whatever you've shared in the first one, should still be kind of in line with the narrative, throughout your essays, basically. So it just together it completes the whole stories. So basically what I've done is because I've also gotten a lot of questions as to how to use the STAR method. So what I've done is to actually just come here on this call with several examples of how you can like start essays that I've used the STAR method. These are just examples, and possibly within the call also I would share what I also did. But this, if you read my article, you would see this. To be able to achieve all of these things that I've said here, the slide will also be shared after the call. You need to be able to reflect. So these are questions that you can ask. So why am I studying this course? For me, before I even knew about Mastercard, I was looking out for scholarships. So basically, a colleague of mine got the DAD scholarship, and we basically do something similar to each other. But I never really thought I could actually apply for a scholarship, because I was like, oh, you have to be very exceptional. You have to be this, you have to be that before you get a scholarship. And then when he got it, I was like, what? Just like that? Okay, now let me go and start searching. So I started, and my first choice was Chevening. So it was in the process of applying and doing my research about Chevening that I came across the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship, right? And to a very large extent, this is actually the best. I also mentioned on my LinkedIn post that through this, what the essay I was actually able to use to write for the Chevening application, I didn't get Chevening. I was able to retweak that, use it for Mastercard, and I also was able to retweak that and used it for Erasmus Mundus and the University of Essex, in which I got. So I wanted to study something that had to do with business, because that is I love entrepreneurship. So when I went through the website, I saw that, oh, there's a course called on entrepreneurship and innovation. So I just knew that is the course for me. Now, what am I currently doing? What have I done in the past that aligns with this course? I had a story to tell, right? I was still a very early stage founder at that point. So there was like several knowledge gaps, even though I'd been through several incubator programs, entrepreneurial programs, online and offline. There were still gaps and loopholes, on how to, build a sustainable business, right? From scratch to this, to the extent where you can actually scale it beyond your country. So those were some of the things I really wanted to learn. And basically, these questions here are just there to make sure that you're able to reflect. So what are the specific skills you currently have or you do not have that you'd like to develop, and why? And what problems would this course help? Would you be able to solve once you've been able to study this course? Now, one other thing that I've realized that also works in all applications that I've made is, to a very large extent, the scholarship in itself, yes, there's a part of the academics, they're funding you to come and study, but it's also beyond academics. So beyond the University of Edinburgh, why would you like to study, right? This is where you get to shine. especially if you're very big on research. So researching beyond the academics, what are the extracurricular activities, the societies within the university, that you can actually also, that can contribute to your personal development. Then what are your goals? What do you plan to do? Definitely in the first 1 year, you want to, study, get that knowledge. Within the next 3 years, what do you want to do with that knowledge? And what are your five, you don't necessarily need to go into the 5-year goal, but, at least in the next 3 years. And basically you want to make sure that your goals are smart in the sense that they're achievable. And you also want to make sure that, to a very large extent, the investment they've made into your education, also translates or transitions to as many people as possible in your home country, right? Yeah, so now let's go into the examples. Yeah, so I touched a little bit about transformational and transformative leadership before. So transformative leadership is basically, even if you've not founded anything in the past, you are not currently working on maybe like your own initiative, as long as you, maybe even if you're even fresh from school, like as an undergraduate, you're fresh from, your first degree, what are the things you've been able to do? Maybe projects, courseworks, volunteering that you've done, where you've taken initiative. Let me add this person. Yeah, so where you've taken initiative, you've taken action, and that action has resulted into, like, you've created impact, and the impact has a ripple effect, right? So it could be mentoring younger students or colleagues, it could be leading a campus initiative, it could be volunteering within an organization and taking on responsibility, it could be changing how people work within the organization. Everything doesn't necessarily have to do with, maybe a non-profit or a social enterprise. It could also just be like, a standard company, right? And being able to, like, mobilize people around for a cause. So all of these things are like things that you could look at. So basically reflect upon, in what scenario, or are there instances where I've actually, done something, maybe seen where I saw a problem and I took initiative, took action, right? And you can work with that. So let me know if you can see this very well. Just use yeah, okay. So this is an example of, a star essay, right? So basically, one thing I always advise is that there is so much about you that you cannot say, you cannot entirely say within 250, 500 words, right? So, but the best thing you can do is to make sure that with the little word counts you have, you're able to capture the attention of whoever is reviewing it in such a way that they really understand not just what you did, but why you did it and the impact of what you did. So the STAR method of essay writing, or the CAR method, if you've read my article, you would be familiar about that, actually helps you make sure that you can break down your essay, whatever it is you want to do. The Mastercard Foundation Scholar, the applications, they're typically always around 5 essays, 4 to 6, thereabouts. I've realized that depending on the course you are studying, your questions might be a bit different, but it's also still kind of similar. So this is an example of someone taking initiative, right? So while volunteering at a local health clinic in Ibadan, I noticed that 70% of patients, this is not my example, this is not me, this is an example. So notice that over 70% of patients miss their follow-up appointments, and then, so that is the problem, or the context, the situation, right? So what has this person done? This person saw an opportunity to create a system, a better system. So what did this person now do, right? This person then went on to onboard 2 developer friends to help him or her build a system, an SMS reminder system that also helps them with appointment booking and telemedicine, right? And then breaks it down into what they did. And now, aside from what you've done, okay, it's very beautiful. You've contributed, you've done something, but what is the result of what you've done? So within the next 8 months, this is what we've been able to achieve. And you can see very well that in this example, we use a lot of numbers, percentage, just to, metrics, just to be able to quantify, the result or the impact of what you've done. And this is where you then tie it, to why you want to study that course. So this star example that I've shared is actually very good when you're answering any question that has to do with tell us about why you want to study this course. Why do you want to study the course, or why the scholarship, right? You can also use the star approach for your background, for you as when you're telling because there's always the first question, which is always about the applicant story. So you can also use this to tell, like, just to introduce yourself. Where are you coming from? What were the challenges you experienced, when it comes to maybe bias or difficulty when it comes to access to education. Now, one thing I noted here, which I wanted to mention, is that, yeah, so I've seen it. Yeah, so when it comes to barriers to education, one thing I've noticed is that barriers to education doesn't necessarily always have to do with barriers to, like, maybe your secondary school or your undergrad, right? It could also be any other thing. Maybe you realize that, just for instance, um I didn't necessarily have to drop out from school. My parents were not so well to do, in the sense that they could, fund my studies to study abroad, but they could still fund my studies to still study in Nigeria, right? So I would be lying if I had to, like, put my narrative around, saying that, oh, I struggled or my parents were struggling to, like, fund sponsor my education and all of that. So what I did instead was to look for an example where I knew that, okay, getting access to maybe opportunities that other people had, there was, like, a gap. So the example I used was, as an English undergraduate. Yeah, I studied English. So as an English undergraduate in 2 weeks software development training, and amongst 25 participants, I was the only female in the cohort. Now, to a very large extent, this already paints a story that, okay, so basically I wanted to study, or I wanted to learn software engineering. And to a very large extent, at this timeline that I mentioned, um, when it comes to learning software development, it was a male dominated field at that point. So we hardly had females that, you could even draw motivations from that, So basically, I mentioned that. Then I also mentioned why I wanted to do this. So I wanted to actually participate because I wanted to break away from the limitations of my English degree. Despite being the only female, and having an unconventional background in English rather than engineering, I thrived excellently at the program. And through this, I was able to better support myself financially through school. And I went on like that, like that, like that. So to a very large extent, this example does not necessarily have to do with barriers to, like, education in terms of university. It just had to do with me struggling to actually get access to a very good programming school where I could build my software development skills. Now, that is just one example. The next example, okay, I'm going to rush for time. We might not be able to go deep into all of them, but definitely you get the slides, so you can always come back. So this here is an example of you taking leadership. So the previous one was initiative. This is more of leadership, right? So this year, to a very large extent, everything can still be summarized or broken down depending on how much word counts you want to, like, devote to it. But basically, this is better than just saying that I built an affordable system. I built a responsive system that actually helps employers track, or that helps students, graduates, get access to jobs. So that is actually what you did. But beyond what you did, it's always very good to paint the context around why you did it and then the result. So for this also, this is also another example of resilience, right? Um, Basically, but one thing I always like, one recurring thing that you would notice is there's always the situation, then the task, what needed to be done, the action, what you did, and then the result, and then you tie it all together. So studying entrepreneurship and innovation at the University of Edinburgh will expand my understanding of how lean startup methodologies, user-centered design, and how to build scalable ventures that can survive beyond their initial pivots. Then you go on from there, right? So this is also just like an approach. It doesn't necessarily mean this is the standard, but this is something that I know that has worked, or that worked for me and has worked for a couple of colleagues. So we'll be getting into the Q&A shortly, but as I've said, I just want to do a quick recap as to what are the key pointers you should take note of when you're answering your essay questions. So for your first essay, it is always going to be around participants who have faced significant barriers to education, as I've said. So the education could be, the barriers could be social, financial, it could be personal, health related, and the like. So this is the best time you have to actually give context about yourself, your past experiences, what you've been able to do over time. But basically, because of the word count, you need to just make sure that it's okay to still write the draft. It might be even longer than that, but you can always, make it tighter, and better. So the second essay would always deal, around something around leadership, community engagement, resilience, and the likes. So this is where you get to shine in terms of what are the things you've been able to do in the past. What are the things you've been able to do in the past? What organizations have you worked with or volunteered with? And then don't forget to quantify it. So this also here has to do with, you can use the STAR approach for this, right? Then the next one, this is always my favorite question, because this year, for the other questions, when it comes to leadership experience, you can only give, or you can only share what you've done, right? So if you've not really volunteered, there'll be a little bit of a difference with what you write, and someone that has been volunteering for like 5 years, what that person would write, right? But for this other question here, which has to do with your course or your career plan, this is where you can actually, shine. Like, I don't know how the grading, if how everything are, the essays are graded, but if perchance, each answer or each essay is graded individually, then you can get your top mark from this. I'm just talking as a student here. So basically, you have all the resources you need on the website. You can get the lecturer's name, you can get on the course module, you can see, the expectations, that's the outcomes, of what you would actually be able to do, or what that course will help you do or achieve after so months or so weeks, right? There are also so many resources on YouTube that you can also use, right? So basically, one thing I would always advise and encourage people to do is to do your research, because when you do that research, it makes sure that your answers are not generic. Let me admit. So it makes sure that your answers are not generic, right? And then tie everything that you've learned. Okay, so you want to study this course. Why do you want to study it? And what will this help you do? So tie it into maybe your next 2 years or 3 years goal, and make it as smart as possible. Smart in the sense that it should be realistic, timely, and achievable, measurable, and the likes. So basically, make your course page your best friend. There's also on YouTube, you can also find, other, when you go to the school's YouTube channel, or the university of, either the university itself or the business school, or whichever school within your school. So basically, they call them schools, but in Nigeria here, we call them faculty and departments, right, within the central university. So some of them have their own unique YouTube channel, so check for them. And so the other one here has to do with why the university, why Edinburgh, why Mastercard, something around that, or how would you contribute back to the community. So this is where you get to do your research on other initiatives that that the Mastercard holds there, like the Baobab Summit, the Climate Leadership Program. What can you do with the alumni network? And then beyond all of the education, the academics, they also support pastoral support, soft skill support, even entrepreneurial support as well. Then aside from academics, there's also the Edinburgh Innovations, very, very big. I remember I mentioned some of the programs that they were running that I actually wanted to do, right? There are potlucks. Potlucks are more of you know, intercultural events where each person brings food from their own delicacies from their own tribe, and then everybody shares. So basically, these are like other organizations within the university, so you can look at what they do and see how they align with what you want to do, right? And for climate leadership, to a very large extent, it's okay to, if you do not, if it's okay if what you are working on has nothing to do with, sustainability or climate change and the likes. But basically what you want to do, if you feel like, okay, you do not know so much about this, is to actually, first of all, just educate yourself. You would be surprised to see that some of the things you've actually done in the past, also touches on maybe one of the SDGs or something around sustainability and the likes. So because of time, I've been seeing some questions in the chat, which we will get to, right, shortly. So just keep your questions coming. But we are going to kick off with the Q&A very shortly. I just want to check if my all our panelists are here. So just give me 1 minute. Thank you. Okay, awesome. I can see my panels. Some of them you're already on the call. Let's see. Okay. Let me just search. So I'm going to add you as co-hosts right now, so you can really unmute as we get into it. Okay. For questions, just hold on. We'll get to that point where we unmute to answer questions. Just a second. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so everybody's here already. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. So you're all welcome. Welcome, Ibukun. Welcome, Jason, Timmy Chokwe, Solomon, Richard, and Tony. Just I don't think I saw Timmy. Okay, yeah, I can see Timmy. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we have some questions that we've been able to gather, because as you guys were registering, I also encouraged you to share questions that you have. So there are some recurring questions we believe that once we answer, would also answer some of the questions you have in the chat. So once we're done with that, then we'll come to the chat, if that is okay. So if you have any other question, still drop it in the chat. When the time comes, we would take on people that would like to actually speak verbally. All right. So yeah. So thank you everyone for joining today. Aminatu, can you mute? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to kick off with. Yeah. So I'm going to kick off with Ibukun. Hi, Ibukun.
Hi, Olumide. Thanks for having me.
So, and thanks for joining as well. So could you kindly introduce yourself and explain, what the program you studied, was about?
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Ibukun Omotola. On this call, you all can refer to me as IBK. And I studied data inequality and society. I recently just completed my master's degree. And data inequality and society, just like the name of the course implies, is a course that enables you with skills and research to use data to investigate societal problems, mostly systemic inequalities or inequities, and also helps you to use data to solve those problems. And the interesting part of it is it's not limited to that. It also opens our mind to look at how even data itself can contribute to or can be used to reinforce some of these inequalities through misrepresentation, omission, bias, and all of those things. Yeah, I think that's just the summary about data inequality and society.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Ibukun. All right, so I'm going to move on to Jason. So Jason, if you can hear me, would also like you to quickly introduce yourself and also let us know what your program was about for those interested in applying.
Thank you so much, Olumide. My name is Jason. I'm from Kenya, and I studied a master's in climate change finance and investment. So what the program is about is it handles the financing part when it comes to climate change. So we are the ones that, so what the course covers is instruments such as green bonds, equity or debt that is focused mostly on climate change mitigation or adaptation. So looking at how do we raise financing to tackle some of the climate challenges. So for the course that I took, the particular focus was mostly on energy financing and also a big focus on adaptation and mitigation financing. So you get to learn about some of the instruments that are used in addressing these challenges and also getting a better picture of the global climate finance landscape. So that's just a very brief snapshot of the program.
Okay, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jason. So now we'll move on to Temitope. So guys, I hope you are taking notes, right? Temitope, you have the floor.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Temitope Akiemi, and my background is in food science and technology. Here I studied master's in food security. That's at the University of Edinburgh. Then the course is basically about food, everything about food. But one thing I think I need to point out to applicants is that the food security program is focused on the socioeconomic aspect of food. So if you are applying, even if you are from a core food science background like I am, and you've always been in the lab, it's best for you not to start discussing the physical chemical properties of food and all of that. So let your application be tailored to socioeconomic aspects of food. I think that will be clarified later based on questions being asked. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that and for sharing. So next up we have Solomon. So Solomon, you have the floor. Kindly introduce yourself and then let us know what your course was about.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Solomon Monachemso, and I recently completed my master's in environmental sustainability. Well, I think master's in environmental sustainability, like Temitope said rightly, as also is focused on the cultural aspect of environmental sustainability, looking at it from the contested nature of sustainability, where different actors have a role to play, including policymakers, government, and other maybe communities. So it also actually integrates the element of environmental science, but that will come from the elective that you will be able to select, because it gives you opportunity to select some courses that you feel you are very passionate about. And also, I feel like it's also a very nice course to go into if you have a vision or a career to pursue in environment and also in sustainability. So don't just look at it from the aspect of the environment included in the course, but look at it from the general view of sustainability, because it covers a whole range of activities and also context. So I believe during the question and answer, we'll definitely dive deeper into what the course entails and how you should probably structure your answers to answer the scholarship question very well.
All right, thank you so much for sharing that, Solomon. So next up we have Richard. So Richard, you have.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
All right, so my name is Richard Ofuri. As Shirley said, I studied MSc Sustainable Energy Systems, and we all graduated recently. So I think they've all mentioned that the program is basically about, as the name suggests, it focuses on development, delivery, and regulation of sustainable energy, particularly in electricity. So the end product or the end purpose of whatever you are doing is to produce electricity, but what way? So we emphasize on the system level approach, where we look at the society, the economic, and then the political aspects, in addition to the core concept. So anyone with a background in engineering, most advantageously in terms of electrical and mechanical, and then sometimes chemical, but anyone with mathematics and physics background can actually pursue the program. And in this case, we look at the three core parts of renewable energy, where we look at wind, marine, and solar. So if you are interested in any of these that I've mentioned, then this particular course is for you. And we don't only look at the renewable energy, we look at how we can also control the current electricity infrastructure to be able to get to the net zero that we want to approach. I, for instance, did my dissertation looking at how we can, the impact of electric vehicles on the current electricity network, and how we can use sustainable energy to be able to mitigate the impact of these vehicles. So that is basically what the course is about. So I'm hoping that at the Q&A session, if you have any questions related to that, you can talk about it more.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So guys, if you have questions when it comes to each course, or you want a particular panel speaker to actually like answer, just also drop that in the chat, because I'll be checking the chat, at random. For those that have their hands raised, we'll be coming to you very shortly. Let's finish with the introductions first. So we have Oluwatoyin. So I'll be passing the mic to Oluwatoyin. If you could introduce yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and good evening once again, everybody. So my name is Oluwatoyin Oladeji. I studied the Africa and International Development, like the name implies. Africa development, basically. So when you talk of development, you talk of policies, programs, practice, theories, but now with a focus of Africa. However, that's what I expected, but when I got in, I found out that you are not just limited to, getting insights on the development landscape in Africa. You take experiences from the international space, and then you find what is adaptable, or what as Africans have we been doing differently in terms of trying to copy and paste development models when they don't really apply, right? If you are into programs and all of that, you understand what I mean. So these are things that you would find quite interesting, just getting to understand. I'm implementing this program, especially if you're in the nonprofit space, but I'm just doing it because that's the program template I have. However, there are theories, there are policies that guide that template that you are implementing your programs on. So those are the things you'll talk about in the African International Development space. You'll also have the opportunity to take courses on gender if you're interested in programs specifically for women. I'm from the edtech space, meaning digital transformation. So quite interesting that also fits into the landscape. It's a very broad course which allows for different interdisciplinary field. So if you have a track record of the impact and you feel like I don't really know where I fit in, AID might just be the best solution for you, because you could really tailor anything and everything to talk about how it's impacting the development space in Africa. Yeah, so we'll take questions if any pop up in that line, and I'll be able to provide insight on that.
All right, thank you so much for that, for sharing. So yeah, so basically I think I've introduced myself already, but just to give a brief context as to what my course was about. So entrepreneurship and innovation is more of a business focused course or an entrepreneurship focused course, in the sense that if you have an idea or you already have something you're already building or working on, and you want to get the knowledge, to know how to actually sustain what you're building, to know how to strategize, to work on, implement, when it comes to strategy, innovation, and the like. So basically, this is more like a compounded, course that just helps you. It also helps you, we had something in which we called, feasibility studies. So to a very large extent, I used to be someone that if I have an idea, I get excited about the idea. But right now, when when I hear other people's ideas, you get excited and all of that. But just being able to, take the back seat to really vet an idea, to know how to conduct a feasibility study, to know, okay, how is this going to be viable? How do you bring it to market and all of that? So these are like, components within the course. And there's also the financial components, which I didn't necessarily like, but it's also there. So knowing how to create your projections for your investors, knowing how to pitch and all of that. So basically everything entrepreneurship comes here. So thank you for that. So I noticed that some people have their hands raised. So what I would do is to just quickly let them ask their questions, and then we can proceed with the flow. So Miracle Okoli, can you kindly ask your question? You have 1 minute each. You each have 1 minute, so we can maximize time. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Miracle Okoli. I graduated from the University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Bachelor of Sciences in Sociology. I'm currently interested in climate change and sustainability programs. So at the university, I'm applying. Okay, University of Edinburgh. I'm applying for the environmental development. That's environmental and development program. And there's a prompt I asked. Is asking about what I'm currently involved in, and I think it's linked because at some point, I think one of the questions is leadership experience, and it's just what I'm involved in is something I did in my undergraduate degree after my research. After my undergraduate research, actually waste management, I noticed university had waste management problem. Then I submitted recommendations to the waste management team. They took up my recommendation. I assisted. I led the team. We had a team that will lead, do some outreach, install some things. So now I've left that system. I've graduated from the university, and they're asking, am I currently working on? Can I use, because it has been established there, though somebody's adding it, no longer me because I'm no longer a student. Can I refer to that instance, or I don't know? I will really appreciate an advice on this.
Okay. So for this, is there any panelists you would really want to answer the question, or it's a general one?
I would really appreciate if Solomon could give thoughts on this, because it's the closest person to my program about mental sustainability.
Okay. All right.
Well, when I was listening to your question, I could actually relate, because when I was applying during my time, it was not the same question, but I can remember there was a question which we were asked about climate leadership, and I did something in my undergrad as of then, and I couldn't find any example to use. So that was what I used, and I'm here today. So, but going through your you guys current question, the question goes like this: tell us about a current idea or project you are working on. So the emphasis on the current means you using your undergraduate example might not suit in, but if you are still involved in that program, that means it's going to make sense for you to emphasize on that. And it's also going to show how the program you've incorporated is sustainable because it have passed through time and also seasons. So what I would advise you to do is to really look at how you've actually contributed to that program even up to this moment. And if your contribution is visible, and if you are the pioneer of that project, I will really advise you to consider that. But I also want to chip in terms of environment and development and environmental sustainability. They're a little bit different, but sometimes they are related because I did some courses with also our colleagues from the environment and development. But your solution or maybe your essays should also mistakes some persons make in terms of when they're writing their essays is it is disconnected from the program you are actually applying to. So when you talk in full details about waste issue that you've done and the rest, I think they closely match with environment and sustainability than environment and development. But I'm not saying you cannot use it for environment and development. All lies in how you actually structure your question or your responses to those questions, and it's going to fit into the context of development, because remember, there is a development in that aspect. So I don't know if that answers your question very clearly.
Okay, yes. Is it possible to adjust my program after passing the first stage?
I might not be in a position to tell you that you have to contact Mastercard, but I don't think it will be very possible. But like you should actually be intentional about the course you actually want to choose. But if you need a very clear response, then you have to contact Mastercard at the University of Edinburgh themselves.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Solomon. So Miracle, you can lower your hand once if your question has been answered. All right, thank you. So Michael Osi for 1 minute.
All right, thank you so much, Ma, for the opportunity. My name is Michael. I'm a recent graduate of geology from the University of Ibadan. So my question is directly to Mr. Solomon and Mr. Richard. So I would just like you guys to just give me an advice, because I'm in a dilemma of what to apply in between environmental sustainability and sustainable energy system. Currently, I'm applying for the environmental sustainability because most of all my research works that I've done, they are tailored towards environmental sustainability. But actually, the current project that I'm doing right now is tailored towards energy system, like trying to develop a new system where electricity that we can develop generate electricity other than the ones that we already know. So, and I don't know if it's right for me to put it in my essay that I asked about my recent project, because all my questions, most of my researches have just been towards environment, climate, but the current one I'm doing, the current project is tailored towards energy. So I don't know if that should be the right path for energy system. Like if I'm to apply to the one that Mr. Richard is applying, actually graduated from, or I should just stick to environmental sustainability if it actually encompasses everything. So what would you advise me, sir? Solomon, you go first.
Oh, don't worry, Richard. Go. After you, I will go.
All right. So I think the dilemma is the solution to your dilemma is based on what you are looking for. Because I always tell people that before you apply for the course, you have to know what the course entails, because that is what you are going to do. So just like I said at the beginning, the program is more or less like engineering biased, especially mechanical electrical. I have a friend called Adil who did geophysics, and he studied the course and he did extremely well. So if you have the capacity in terms of physics and mathematics, you are a good candidate for it. But the course shouldn't only be the focus. You should also look at what you really want. Just like you said, it looks like you're having two projects that you're undertaking. One seems to be in environment, just like you said, and then now you are doing something related to electricity generation or something like that. So I will advise you go to the school's website, look at the courses there, look at where your strength really lies. I will share a link with you when I'm done, and then you'll be able to get access to all the courses for the semester, for semester 1 and semester 2. If you think those courses you can actually take them, that is fine. You can also do the same thing for the course you are currently working on. If you weigh the two and you need another thing to consider your what you want to pursue in the future. Do you really want to divert into electricity? I mean, being more of energy aspect, that's something that you are looking for. So basically, that is what I can advise you on. So go look at the courses and how your strength can actually match them, and also look at what you are really interested in, because sometimes the dilemma sometimes comes in when you are not very sure if you are really if you have a definite goal that you really want to achieve. So I would advise you revise some of the things that you really want, not because you really want to get a scholarship, so you are now confused which course, but what you really want to pursue, because you also have to add that in. I think one of the questions you have to specify what you want to gain in the scholarship. So if you're able to refine that and you think about it carefully, I'm very sure you'll be able to have an answer to that.
All right. You've actually said everything, but one thing I'm going to add to this context is in regards to I was also in the same condition, in the same dilemma when I was applying for this, because I actually was weighing the energy system and environmental sustainability. But the only thing that I did that made my case very different was that just when I went to Mastercard website, I saw the different courses and I highlighted 2 courses that can actually fit in my experience, given the fact that I was actually coming from the oil and gas sector. So I said energy system will make more sense to me and environmental sustainability. But when I went to the course page and I saw the course models, to be frank with you, I have to run away because I did microbiology, and the terms I was seeing in energy system and like they are more of engineering terms, and I said I'm not coming to Edinburgh to struggle to actually get a degree. I should actually do something that I find joy in and that can also align with my future goals. So what I will advise you to do, because no one will be able to tell you the best thing to do. We are in the best position to tell yourself what you want to do. So go to the website and weigh your options. Where is my strength? And you should focus more on your strengths. And sorry, I didn't get your initial your undergraduate discipline. But if your undergraduate discipline is in any of these courses that you feel it's going to give you an upper hand, then you go for the energy system. If you think it is not, you go for environmental sustainability. So it's all about what you think your strength is in. Me, when I checked, I realized my strength is not in the energy system because it comprises of a lot of engineering terms, and I found that if I should go for that program, I would definitely struggle. Not even struggle, you can't even defend yourself during the interview. So coupled with what you've said, that you've done a lot of work in the environmental sustainability field, that means you will be much, much better to defend yourself and put up a lot of arguments during your interview. So with this piece of information, nobody is going to choose for you. But I believe we've given you sufficient information for you to be able to choose which program you can go for. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And to just add, I studied geology.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So you'll be able to know which one to go for. Yeah. Illumida, you can
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you so much, everyone. Michael, you can lower your hand now. So Emma, you have 1 minute to quickly ask your question. Also, let us know who you want to direct your question to.
Okay, thank you, Olomide, for this very insightful session. My question is with regards to GPA. So out of 4, what is the GPA requirement? And let's say probably the GPA requirement is at around 3.6 and someone has like at a
3.4, can the essay application and the leadership experience still add an upper hand to your application, or the main focus will be on your GPA? I think I'll focus this to either Solomon or Jason.
Okay, so let's do Jason then. But basically, it would be better if you let us know who you want to, who you would like to answer the question first, so the person is listening attentively.
Okay,
So
Jason can go ahead since you had already also suggested him. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's a very interesting question. When it comes to, and maybe the other panelists can correct me if I'm wrong. When it comes to the GPA and the grade that you got in your undergrad, in my case, that never came up in any of the interviews that I did, because if you look at how the process looks like, you first do the essays, and then once the essays, you pass through the essay stage, now the program that you had applied for, their director does an interview for you. And I'm not very sure about how the GPA system works, but I'm going to speak on the case for Kenya. So in Kenya, if you just have like something equivalent to a second upper, you either first class or a second upper, you automatically qualify. It doesn't matter how strong your second upper was. You may be having a strong second upper or a weak second upper, but so long as your certificate says you have a second upper, you do qualify for the program. So the first cutoff is usually the essays. So once you are shortlisted for the essays, you are now, when you go now to the interviews with the program director, that's where now the director now assesses. Because I do know in my program, there is someone in my program who had a very weak second upper, and they were part of the scholarship.
Okay, thank you for that, Jason.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Princess Alabi, you're next.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Princess. My question specifically is for Ms. Oluwatoyin. In the application, I have already applied actually. So all these things I'm just using to, put side by side if I've done the right thing, which I think I have. But my question for Ms. Tony is, I don't know, climate change feels like such a broad concept. How can I connect it to real development issues as I applied for Africa and international development? My second question is, for someone applying for Africa and international development, how can I talk about climate change without sounding too technical, like too generic? And the last one, what are simple but powerful ways to link climate action to community development when answering? Those are all my questions. Sorry, this is quite overwhelming.
That's fine.
Sorry.
The first one was in terms of thinking about climate change as broad, right?
Yes, broad.
Yeah. So it is about yourself, right? So it's not about all that you know about climate, but what exactly have you yourself done in line with climate? Like Olumide said, it might be difficult for you if you have not actively worked in climate. For instance, I myself was never involved actively in climate. I was into EdTech. However, in the space of EdTech, I knew that climate change was a conversation that was bubbling up. I had introduced that in some of the programs that we had implemented. Sorry. Yeah, I had introduced that in some of the programs that we had implemented. For instance, when we were having training programs, we talked a bit about climate change, talking to the program participants, how that it's important when they're learning digital skills to think about the products they will be building and the impact it will have on the climate. So that was the story I could tell. And it's all about what you have done and what story you have. So don't think about it in the sense that, oh, I have to have maybe talked about the environment, plastics, renewable energy systems, and all of that. It's all about niching down to what exactly your story is. And that's what makes you stand out, which is like your third question, right? That's what makes you stand out. When you sound generic like every other person, you just get lost in the crowd using all the climate jargons that exist. It's not personal to you. So think about your work, think about the volunteer experiences you have. Where do sustainability and climate come to play in it? Find a way to make it personal to you and unique to you, such that when you tell it, you're confident that this is my story and you're able to own it even when you get to, the interview phase. That's the advice I would give you, Princess. Then your second question is about, can you just recap because I didn't hear that?
Talk about climate change without sounding too technical.
Okay, so I think I sort of answered that. Break it down to your story, right? So have you worked in the climate space before, or do you have a development project that is thinking in terms of sustainability, has that view sight, or has that vision in mind? Or it could even be, I tell people something about the potential. So I don't know much about this, but this is my interest in it, right? I envision my work being able to do this and that in terms of climate. There's a strong link between gender and climate that I would advise anybody maybe going through, having worked in the gender space for women and is finding it difficult to add climate. Read upon it. Those are things that you could touch on. So what is the potential that exists for me as well? Aside from what you've done, if you don't have enough experience about what you've done to be able to build that story of climate, you could think about it in the long term. What would I change differently in my space, in the development space, to contribute to the conversations that we're having about climate? So you could talk about that. But what would help you not to sound generic is being honest and owning your story as much as possible.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
My final question for every single panelist actually is, I've noticed that nobody has really asked questions about interviews. Everyone's asking about applications. What are the biggest mistakes applicants make during interviews, and how can we avoid them? Thank you.
Sorry to add up to that. When you get to that bridge, we'll cross that bridge. The bridge we are currently on now, it's the bridge of
Yeah.
application.
Thank you
So,
so much.
so just hope that you get to the interview stage. It's very, very competitive. Let's be realistic. The Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at the University of Edinburgh is competitive. So when you get to that interview, that means you are a potential candidate. And I believe my sister here, Olumide, will also host a session. And we hope we'll be available also to provide you with the tips which we use. But for now, let's focus on the essays.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. So Rita Coco, yeah, okay, Ibukun, please proceed.
Yeah, thank you. So on the interview question, let me quickly say this so that at this point, because there is something I also noticed that is important you put in place at this point in expectation of getting shortlisted for interview. And that thing is make sure that you keep your story, like your essays, stored safely. Because one mistake I've noticed that applicants make is they write a different story in their applications, and when they are shortlisted for interview, they tell another story. Your application that you are submitting is kept, is stored, is saved with the reviewers, those that will be assessing your application. So they know your story, they know what you'll be writing in the application, they would have read it, they would have gone through it. So when you're shortlisted for interview, make sure that you tell or you answer the questions in line with what you have written in. So right now, while you are writing your application stories, your essays, write them in view of being shortlisted for interview. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ibukun.
All right. So Rita Coco, thank you, Ibukun.
Hello everyone, good evening. Now I want maybe, yeah, they've been talking about the interview stage. I will say maybe no one talks about those people who have gotten to the interview stage and failed to be selected after the interview. And so I just wanted to know, as a repeating applicant, what are the do's and don'ts? Some scholars will advise you to look at your essays differently, afresh. And then you'll find another one will tell you maybe you just add some you show your growth in the past 1 year, maybe what you have been able to do from the time you had the interview now up to now. You show it in your essays. Yeah, and so how difficult and how easy is it also for a repeating applicant to get shortlisted again? Maybe you may have had people who have been through that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
think I already answered this question in the chat. But just to quickly answer. So basically, any person that has gotten into the interview but didn't get to the actual final application, it means that you actually did something right in the first instance. It means you've actually done something right. So basically what you want to do is to, if you plan to reapply, see how you can, if there are other things done after that, since when you submitted your first application, and include that. Then if possible, also like subtly let them know that you actually kind of made it to the interview. It also lets you stand out a little bit more, because that means they actually saw something, you know, in your application at the first instance. So for the interview, that in itself is like another course meal. So basically we want to make sure that everyone gets to get as much clarity when it comes to, you know, the actual application process. For the interview, maybe what I would do is send the link to one of the articles I wrote last year around, you know, interviews, and any other article I find. So that would actually help. So we are going to continue, go back to the other questions. So for those that have their hands raised, if you know your questions can be answered in the chat, please use the chat, right? If you have a specific question that is tailored to one of the speakers, and you know that to a very large extent, you know, it's something that you cannot write in the chat, then still leave your hands up. But we will come back to those that have raised their hands. Let's just go back to the questions, that some of the recurring questions that we had here. So basically, I'm going to throw this question to Temitope. Let me see. So to a very large extent, so Temi, we know that the scholarship values, I believe someone has actually touched on this a bit, but for the scholarship values commitments to climate change and sustainability. But one of the recurring questions we've gotten is that some people's work, you know, doesn't necessarily or directly has anything to do with environmental sustainability or even climate change. So how would you advise, you know, applicants to, you know, be able to answer questions like this, or even try to see how they can link what they are doing to something around sustainability? Is that possible?
Okay,
Temi.
thank you, Olumide, for that question. The first thing I would say is that what you know is how you will see things. I think there's really nothing you cannot link to climate change or sustainability. If you study English language, you can link it to climate change and sustainability. If you study art, if you study, like, name it, if you study law, there's nothing you cannot link to climate change and sustainability in terms of your career. And if, aside from, in fact, if you study Yoruba language, if you study your dialect, if that's what you study in your country, there's no way you would not be able to link it to climate change and sustainability. And let me give you a tip, is that as much as we encourage you, don't use AI to write your charts. But if you really want to think like you have thought about it, sorry, it's not a good, I just want to advise you, you may not accept that. But if you really think and you don't know how to, you know, link up your course, you have thought about it, you don't know how to link it up to climate, just ask ChatGPT. I'm sorry if this is against the rule, but this is the most basic way I can say it. Just ask ChatGPT that, how can I link English to climate change? How can I? You don't have to write the essay. It will just give you ideas, different. You'll be shocked the kind of ideas you will see. And then it might even be something that has happened to you before. And also, apart from the aspect of your course, you can look it from the aspect of your life. Like, there's a colleague of mine in food security, you know, that She has never done anything in the area of climate change. She doesn't have any experience in climate change. She didn't even study food. She studied like something around biochemistry. And then she told us that what she did was that in her environment, fortunately for her, she's from this south side. And what was happening there is that they have climate change problem in the environment because of the way flood used to disturb the environment. So she didn't build a story of climate change on the course she studied. She built it on the problem she has experienced. You understand? And she was as clear as possible. So it could be focused on your course, it could be focused on your personal experience. That is how I think you can tailor it to climate change, and also ask ChatGPT for some ideas around that. And Olumide, I also think that the person that said what he or she has made it to the what's it called, interview stage before. Yes, my little opinion would just be that you should, you're applying with different set of people, different cohort of people are different in different years. So that you made it to the first that you made it to interview last year and you didn't get through does not mean that you did something wrong per se. You understand? It does not necessarily mean that you did something wrong. It's just that there are different applicants and all of that, and they just they made their choice. So, but what you can do as somebody who has been rejected several times, of course, is the advice that you have been given that you should review your essays. There are some things that you need to reflect on. For example, the time I would apply, like when I was younger, I had issue with school in the north that I couldn't go to school for like that many times, that my school will be burnt and I won't be able to go to school, and we had to stay away from school for like over 1 year. And if you ask me that am I IDP, because we had to live in a family like 3 to 4 families living in a single room, not our home, sleeping in people's kitchen because of the fight. And if you ask me that am I internally displaced person, before that time, way before that time, I would say no, because I don't even know the meaning of IDP. So if you don't know the meaning of some of these things, it's not like you don't lie. But what I'm saying is that some of these experiences, some of these things that can give you an edge, you actually have passed through it. You actually know it. You have it. Volunteering experience, there's no way you tell me that you have not volunteered. Whether you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, whatever you are, you have done something in the mosque, you have done something in the church. There is a way to present yourself. There's a way to tell your story. There's a way to present yourself, not lie, not exaggerate, but there's a way to present this thing that it's your volunteering experience and you can get in. So that's just it. I think Olumide, I will leave it to you, okay. But I think I have a lot of questions that I'm being asked directly in the group, but I will leave it to you to decide when we should attend to that. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So for the next, does anyone have anything you want to touch up on when it comes to linking what you've done to sustainability and climate change before we move on to the next question? I'm referring to our speakers.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so about climate change and relating it to whatever you study. First, let me say I've had to see like the essay questions for this application, and the question that talks about climate change is asking, okay, before I say that, let me say that it's very important that while you answer your questions, read to understand the question. So this year's application is the question is actually asking you to demonstrate or show how you can translate your leadership skills to address climate change issues. So to the question of relating it to whatever you are studying, for people that are studying data or that want to apply for data inequality and society, first let me let you know that climate change is also one of, or is an example of or a form of inequality or inequity faced in our society. So you can look at it from that angle. Secondly, if you want to answer that question under the if you want to write your essay or your response under that question, I would advise that instead of linking climate change to data or to whatever you are studying, because you might not necessarily have that experience, I would rather say link your leadership skills, your leadership experience, because that's what the question is asking you. So an example of that is while during my application too, that was the way the question was framed. So I did not necessarily talk about my plan on how I want to directly use data. So I looked at climate change from the point of education, because for me, I am a Nigerian, and in Nigeria, I realized that climate change, the issue of climate change is actually becoming like a cliche or just a word that a lot of people do not understand. People at the grassroots, people that are affected by by climate change, do not even fully understand what it means or how it affects them, or what are the causes of climate change issues. People that use firewood to cook and all of those things, they really do not know. So for me, I wanted to address climate change issue from the point of education, which was what I wrote about in my application. And so because I wanted to attack it from education point of view, I wrote in my application that so I wrote about collaboration, which is a leadership skill that I possess. So I said I was willing to work with graphics designers, animators, because I wanted to use animation to create more awareness and campaign about climate change. So that is an example of how you can talk about that topic, the climate change. Make sure that you're authentic. Don't just go to Google and do research and start writing history about climate change and all of that. Tie it to what you already do or how you would want it to be solved. And talk about the leadership skills that you'll be using to tackle it. If it's teamwork, if it's collaboration, if it's justice, there is also the justice part of climate change. Yeah, those are my contributions to that question.
All right, thank you so much. I can see, okay, so Richard, yeah.
Sorry, a quick one. I think somebody is asking in the chat. He wants to find out. It says, I'm applying for sustainable energy, basically solar. Do they have a course on that exactly, or any lecture on that, so I could check and add it to my essay? All right, so I have just shared a link to the courses that you are if you get a scholarship you are going to do. So some of them are elective, some of them are core courses. Solar energy is a core course, so you don't have to select it as an elective. And if you want to do something on it, which will be a specialization, then that means you will do it as a dissertation in your third semester, if I may call it. Yes, so you don't have, it is not an elective where you say, okay, I'm applying for sustainable energy system and I want to do solar. It is actually a core course. The other electives that you can check, which may be related to what you are looking for, but you can probably use the solar as something you are interested in, but not as something that you want to specialize in doing the study of the course, because it is a core course. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for including that as well. Yeah. Demi?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I have some questions referring to, and I wouldn't, because we encourage them to drop it in the chat, so
yeah,
I'd like to attend to them. So the first person has that for leadership experience. Can I talk about my past experiences as well? Straight response, yes. Talk about your experiences using STAR approach that Olumide has explained during the course of the webinar. A question says that what distinguishes a strong Mastercard Foundation essay from that's, I don't know this name, sorry. That's what distinguishes a strong Mastercard essay from an average one, especially for candidates coming from nutrition or agriculture backgrounds. Sorry that I will first, this is like two in one questions, two in one question, and I will respond with it that way. So what distinguishes from my perspective, from my own experience, I always say something, it's my own personal opinion. I always say something as much as you want to sound intelligent and all of that, I think I prefer to write from my heart. When I say write from my heart, it doesn't mean that I've not read, I've not done research, there's a way, personally, I just believe in write your essay passionately. And for example, if you read the write-up of some people, if the person has anger issue, there's likelihood you see that this person can be a very aggressive person because of the way you see, I don't know, you just kind of read the person's personality. You just kind of see into the person from the way the person has written the essay. So first after reflecting, taking time to reflect on your experiences, on all of that, reflect as much as possible and write out from your heart, write out passionately. That's what I think from my hand, so that and also don't write with AI. Don't use ChatGPT to write your essay. You'll be shooting yourself in the leg, because even the committee members, most of them too, even they were once students like you. Some people just also graduated and they know whatever AI you want to use and they are familiar with it. So please don't disqualify yourself with that. Also, okay, you now said that for people from nutrition and agricultural background, one advice that I will give you is that don't generalize. Yes, we know that there's malnutrition, but please don't generalize. What I mean by that is that if you want to talk about, okay, for example, now for agriculture now, if I want to talk about agriculture, I won't say, okay, because food security is a problem. Food security is a problem, truly, but let's break it down. What is that root cause that you yourself, you want to talk about? Is it post-harvest loss? Is it food wastage? Is it nutrition? Is it undernutrition? If you want to talk about undernutrition or malnutrition, is it malnutrition in underprivileged communities? You understand? And when you have said malnutrition in underprivileged communities, let that be make sure, number one, you relate it to climate change, and let that be your story throughout. Don't say undernutrition in your first essay, and your second essay or third essay, you are talking about post-harvest loss as the problem you want to solve. Let your story be consistent. So that is that. And also I think that's that one. So you have to be sure of the problem you want to solve, and let that what you'll be talking about throughout. Like, let that be the focus, let that be the main problem you'll be talking about. So anything you want to talk about will be around it. All your experiences that you want to, that's for me, all your experiences that you want to discuss, the way you want to use your solution to tackle climate change. For example, if you want to solve the problem of malnutrition now, and they said, how do you want to use your skill to solve climate change problem? You have said, okay, maybe you have skill in data analysis. Okay, you have observed that there's not enough information. I'm just saying, for example, you start with the problem. You have observed that this and this and this. So you want to use climate change to solve that problem of you want to use your data analysis skill to solve the problem of climate change, so that food can be available to people in underprivileged communities, or maybe you want to use it to create to facilitate short supply chains. Just be focused. That's what I'm saying. And don't be generic. Food security is broad. You have to bring out your own interest and the problem you want to solve. Another thing that the person said is that, is there a way to link my story to climate change? We have answered that. Somebody said, can you dig deeper on socioeconomic aspect of food? It's also related to what I've just responded to. You know that if you are studying food, if you read the website of MSc Food Security, one thing you should go and do is to read the website. Look at the courses. When you see the courses, don't be lazy by just stopping on the courses, on just the name of the course. Open the course modules and see what the things they will be taught. Those were the things I also did. When you open it, you will understand what I'm talking about when I say socioeconomic. You can't get there and be seeing something like food safety and be seeing something like you do laboratory analysis to check proximate. There's nothing like that. What we keep doing is to talk. If you are talking about post-harvest loss, maybe they are talking about how is it leading problems. Let me just shorten it that way. So just go and read more on that. And when you open the courses, you understand what that is. I think that's the last question from my end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Temitope. Thank you so much for breaking that down. So the other question I have, basically, we planned to wrap up the webinar by 6:30 Nigerian time, and I'm aware that this is 6:36. So to my panelists, apologies for the time that has extended. I'll try and make sure that we can wrap up at least with the panel session by 6:45. And then the entire webinar by 7. But if anyone, because I know you all have busy schedules, but if anyone is still free to still wait with us till 7, then that's great. But by 6:45, would make sure that we wrap things up. So basically, I have some questions here, but I'm looking at possibly what I would just rather we do is if you have a question that is directed to a panelist, right? We've already answered some of these questions in the chat, and it has not been answered in the chat. So raise up your hand. If your hands are already raised, I'll call on you shortly so you can quickly ask them the question. So you have 40 minutes to answer. And for our speakers also, if you can also answer within 2 minutes thereabout so that we can just wrap up with everyone that has their hands raised. For those that asked in the chat, please check the chat. We've already responded to all messages. If your message has not been responded to, please just retag it again. Thank you. So Abdul Latif, you have the floor. Please let us know what you want to answer your question. We are directing your question to, and then your question.
All right. I'm directing my question to Oluwatoyin Oladeji.
Okay.
All right. My question is around MSc African and International Development. My background is in communication, and then how can I relate that with international development? Because I'm more of like in development communication, the approach of looking the intersection between health disparity between global south and the global north around that. But my question basically is that how can I frame my essay to align with that so that it will be much more genuine and authentic? That's my question.
Okay, thank you for that. Tony?
Yeah, thank you, Abdul. So, short answer, talk about the communication inequality when it comes to presenting stories about Africa. So everybody here will be familiar when we talk about storytelling in Africa, and it's always from the poverty mindset, and all of that. So there's an inequality in terms of storytelling and all of that. So you do have experience in comms, background, and all of that. How does it impact development, as it were? How can development story be told better, either in policies, either in blogs, writing, articles, and all of that? So that's an angle you could approach most of your work from. So you already have a niche, which is like health. So narrow down on that. What impact would it make if you were to gain experiences in theories, policies, and practices? How would it influence your communication style? How would it influence the what would I call it now? How would it change the mindset you have currently about telling African story differently? So you could link it from that angle as well. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Tony, also. So James, you have the floor, 40 seconds.
All right, I will make it real quick. Thank you very much, everyone, and all the panelists. So my question is directed to Jason. I'm applying for MSc Climate Change Finance and Investment. So I want to ask particularly, yes, I've done some quite of work because I'm into transaction advisory and we structure PPPs and all of that. So I've done some quite of work in climate change and all, but I have this, I've developed this code fit towards how to write and structure my essay in this application. I don't know if you have any tips on how I can overcome that. Then secondly, I don't know if your LinkedIn profile is on the chat. I would want to connect to you personally if you don't mind. Thank you very much.
Okay. So based on what I have had, you actually have a very good profile and a very strong profile for the program. So let me get something right. Is the issue how to structure your story?
Yes, how to structure my story right. Because I don't just know, I'm just so confused about it. That's the honest truth. Yes, I have done some projects and even currently doing one in transaction advisory. So, but how to go about, writing, and I'm just confused. That's the honest truth.
Okay. Uh maybe the shortest answer that I can give you is the best framework that has worked for me and for everyone else on the call is the STAR approach. And I know that's a very cliche answer that I can give you. But I would really want to know for which essay and for where exactly the issue is. So maybe reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can chat more from there. But based on what I've had, your profile is actually very, very strong. If you've done anything in transaction advisory, you're an excellent candidate for the program.
All right, thank you very much. Let me
All right.
search you out on LinkedIn and send a connect. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. You can lower your hand, James. So George Ekong, you're next. George Ekong. If George is not here, then Ugu Samuel can go next.
Okay.
Or
Good evening.
then Mark,
Can you hear me?
you can proceed.
Okay. This Samuel Luku. Thank you, ma, for the opportunity. My question is directed to Oluwatoyin Oladeji. So, I have a background in law. I'm a lawyer. I'm interested in MSc, Africa and International Development. Though I initially wanted to study MSc in Human Rights Law, but I couldn't find MSc in Human Rights Law as part of the courses. So I'm opting for African International Development. So my question is, how do I link my knowledge as a lawyer and the things I've done? I'm interested in human rights law at the African level. So how do I link it with my essays in terms of African international development? Then secondly is I want to find
You've
out.
exceeded 30 seconds. I said 40 seconds. Please
Okay,
make it
sorry,
snappy.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, very quickly, my second question is, what is the career prospect in terms of transition in as a Mastercard scholar? So that because there are some scholarships that don't have such offer after studies, you have to cater for yourself. So I want to find out, is it easy to transition? What's the work placement? So that's my question. That's one question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. So the first one, you have a background in law and you're interested in human rights. I think it's easy for you to do, your experiences in the sense of Africa has a lot of human rights concerns, right? So that's where you could start from. How do those challenges, how does it impact development outcomes as a whole? How does it impact the economic life of people, the social life of people? That's an angle to look at it. As a lawyer, how would gaining an understanding of policies help you maybe represent people better? Or even if not in practice, how would it help you also influence policies? Remember, policies are made not just by academians, they're also made by practitioners. So you could come in that line as well. So do a lot of research in terms of governance. So look at the political landscape but narrow down now to a country, because I think it would be easier that way. So narrow down now to a country, I'm assuming Nigeria. What is the political landscape in Nigeria when it comes to human rights? What are the gaps? What are the challenges? How does it impact people? Give them stats, give them numbers. If you want to zone in on a particular human rights concern, maybe for women and vulnerable communities, or a particular, just zoning essentially, so that you can own that story, and zoning such that you have impacts to share, right? So if you've had to represent maybe a kind of people, for instance, I have a colleague who is a lawyer, but she works more with children in conflict with the law. So she talks about how that impacts their access to education, right? And education is a development concern, it's a development challenge. So you can come from that angle as well. That's the answer to the first question. Then for the second question, in terms of pathways, the great thing that Mastercard provides is you not being able to go back to your home country. Yippee! But they do have support structures in place in terms of to prepare you for transition. So immediately you step in, you have programs, you have meetups where you meet alumni. You could get lucky to meet those in your field, those outside of your field, just sharing their examples of how they navigated in landscape. So if you want to stay behind to maybe gain experience in the global workspace or work culture, they would provide tips and tricks to get there, but they would not provide you a job placement or giving you a job, but they would provide opportunities, networking opportunities, access to people that when you put in your own hard work and leverage on all those support structures that are in place, you would eventually, be able to do that. So in terms of career pathways, it depends on where you're coming from. I'm from the tech space, in development space, and that's the pathway that I chose, right? So it depends on what you want and the work you put into it. But the great thing is you're not mandated to go back to your home country, at least not during our time, and I don't think that has changed. And unlike other scholarships, Mastercard does provide a system for you to start thinking about education. So do you want to start up your own foundation, or do you want to do an entrepreneurship activity like maybe a business or whatever? They would provide support. You would have access to meetings, sessions with alumni, yeah, just a lot of community support in that sense. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And yes, very, very true, Jason. MCF is way better than Gmail. If I'd gotten that, definitely I would still go with MCF. So you said Mark, you have the floor. George Ekong, I'm very aware you had network issues. We'll come back to you. You said Mark, if you're here, please proceed. You have 40 seconds.
Okay, thank you very much. I am Hussein Mark from Nigeria. I studied history and education. So I will direct my question to Oluwatoyin Oladeji. I am pursuing MSc African International Development. I have a background in leadership. While I was in school, I was a student union leader. I served as director of academics. Before this time, I had taught in about 3 to 4 schools as a teacher. So first, my question is, there are 2 applications. One from the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, their portal, and then another one from University of Edinburgh. So I would ask, which of these applications are we to submit first? I know that the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program will be submitted. The deadline is 21st. That is my first question. Then secondly, I'm having issues with my transcript. I had paid for it, so I've been disturbing my university to make it ready, but they seem to be very reluctant about it. And I'm not very sure if this will be made ready before the deadline. Can I collect, like, download all my results from the portal, and like merge them together and use it as my student transcript? Would that work? And then thirdly, I have reached out to you on LinkedIn because you just accepted my connect. Please, I would like to speak with you further, but you could address the ones I have raised so far. I also work with a startup, an agri-tech startup. I'm currently working with an agri-tech startup. So that addresses climate sustainability because our solution addresses environmental issues as well.
All right.
Okay. So the first question, I'm struggling to find the question that you work in the education space, and are you concerned with linking it to AID?
Yes, I am. I was asking
Mhm.
which of the applications would be submitted first. I just
Oh, okay.
updated mine.
That's it. Okay, okay.
Yes.
So the first application that you should be concerned about, and this is for everybody on the call, is the Mastercard application itself. And this is because, not sure, but I think that some of your applications are also read by the staff, like the academic staff as well. So it means that if you have whatever essay you use, once you've passed the Mastercard essay and all of that, then getting the university admission would be you'd be supported through that, because for some degrees there's an application fee, right? For instance, for AID. However, because we got the scholarship, that application fee was waived and all of that. So focus on passing the essays. You don't need to worry about the school application. Once you get the scholarship, um, the team would support you to get in the school admission. So you have nothing to worry about in terms of the school admission. And this is why the results that you mentioned is important, because they are not going to admit you if you don't meet the school requirements. And that's why you find out that for the eligibility stage, you are being asked, what is your grade? Do you have this degree? And all of that, because they're trying to ensure that you, even if you fit for the scholarship, you also fit for the university criteria. So as long as you ace this stage and you get the scholarship, the university would be sorted. Then for your transcript, if you're trying to chase for the original transcript, I know that that can be very, very difficult. Then I would advise you to maybe ask for the student copy or chase for that instead. In my case, I wanted the original in some kind of way. And that might be more difficult because, you know, they do send to only universities and all of that. So maybe chase for the student's copy. I'm not sure a merged result would work, but I would advise that you email the team in advance now. So email the team. I'm not sure I'll be able to get my transcript on time. However, I'm able to provide all of my results because they are out. Will this work? Then show them an example of what you mean. So don't just say, will this work? Do what you say you want to do and show them an example so that when they see your email, they look at it, they're able to make a decision whether it works or it doesn't work, and they let you know. But email on time, at least way ahead before the application deadline. And also try to chase for a student copy. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Let's connect. I'll continue on LinkedIn after this. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So the next person on the call, yeah. So Kayode Thompson, George Ekong, Ugu Samuel. I'm coming back to you. You said, Mark, you can lower your hand. So Kayode Thompson, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity and thank you for all the knowledge you've shared so far. So my question will be directed to Mr. Gochuku. Okay, Mr. Solomon. Yeah. So the question I want to ask is in two folds, but I'm going to be very fast about it. And what I want to ask is, which one puts me in a better position? And what I mean is, right now my career is in civil engineering, right? And I want to apply to environmental sustainability. And of course, environmental sustainability, we're having lots of aspects. So in my essay, should I say that my career aspiration is to continue as a civil engineer while using the knowledge of environmental sustainability to solve environmental issues, or they're looking for somebody that is more focused on the environmental sustainability, that want to be entirely focused on environmental sustainability? And the second question is, I heard that somebody said that they did not mandate people to come back to the country. So does that leave us from stating in the essay that we are coming back to Nigeria to use the knowledge that we've gathered? So that's the question that I want to ask here.
Okay. Thank you so much. So Solomon.
Yeah, last question is is a bit political and funny, but well, I will start with the first one in terms of your civil engineering background. One mistake people really do and really don't understand how the process works is in terms of thinking environmental sustainability is just only tied down to addressing pollution or maybe solving a little thing related to circular economy. No. Doing your degree in civil engineering, it also cuts across environmental sustainability. Everything falls down to what your career aspiration is. Do you really want to also continue your career in civil engineering sector, or do you want to focus on a specific aspect? And that boils down to how you structure your responses in terms of the scholarship question. Sometimes when you read people's response in those questions, they are disconnected. You're talking about one thing of an issue, in the future career goals, you're talking about something very different from what you've identified as a problem. So there is no cohesiveness in your writing. So what I would advise you to do is, if you identify a problem which you want to solve, that problem should be able to determine your career route. And it should help you to make sure that your responses are actually answering that question. So it's left for you to decide which one you want to do, which sector are you currently working on, which sector are you currently working in, and how is your career path actually structured. And in terms of your last question, if you will have to talk about coming back to Nigeria we have some persons that have actually decided to go back. It's personal. And when I was writing my scholarship essay during my time, I didn't specifically say that I'm coming back, but I specifically said that I'm applying my knowledge back home, which I'm still currently doing. So it's left for you how Mastercard is very good enough that they give you option to go back. And if you say you want to go back, they will pay your flight, go back to your home country and continue from where you stop. But if you decide to further harness your skills in terms of getting a job in the UK and also probably moving to another country, that is still less for you. So these are more of personal questions and reflections that you have to have within yourself to be able to decide which area should I actually focus and also which area should I neglect in my application. So I won't tell you maybe the common traditional way that upon completion of my studies, I plan to return to Africa. That is left for you. If you want to return, if you don't want to return, you can still reframe it in a way that suits the context of what you actually want for yourself.
All right. Thank you so much for breaking that down, Solomon. George Ekong, 30 seconds, please.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Okay, you can. Good evening.
So my question is directed to Mrs. Ibukun Lua. I have issues with two courses from the course catalog. I have an interest in operational research and data science, so data inequalities and society. Personally, I studied statistics. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the best route for me. So I just need insight on that. I've been able to go through the course modules, and I see that operational research suits me better because I have done a course on that while on my during my undergrad. Okay. Secondly, about the leadership. Currently, I run an enterprise. I am engaged in cooking gas distribution. So I don't know, can I link that to climate change? Because I discover it's more of like trying to curtail the usage of cooking with charcoal and firewood. So me engaged in cooking gas distribution, I think I can link it up with climate change. So I also require more insight on that. And
Okay.
thirdly, sorry, it's about the transcript. I don't know. I was trying to combine I have a national diploma in statistics as well. So I got the transcript. So I tried to combine both of them with that of my BS. I don't know if it's advisable. I should just go with my BSc transcript. Thank you very much.
Okay, so George, if it's possible, and I think because we've really extended the time, what I would really encourage is that you reach out if you have like core questions like that. it's always good when you reach out to the speaker directly. You can reach out to them on LinkedIn and they can really, answer your questions in detail. Ibukun, is there anyone you want to quickly answer? Or you
Okay.
should reach out and then
All right, let me quickly say, George, I think you would thrive or you would do well in any of the two. So I would say that, and in case there is anybody else on the call that is also struggling to decide which course to go for, I would say that masters is not only about doing a course that you have a direct background in. I studied computer science, and I'd never done anything in data science, and I had never done anything in social science. So data inequality and society is like an intersection of computer data, humanities, social science, and all of those things. So it's a combination. Your choice about what you want to do in your master's is a combination of so many things. So look at those so many things. Like Olumide said at the beginning, she asked that before you start your application, reflect on what do you want, why this course. After the course, what is your career path that you have designed for yourself? What are your long-term goals? Look at those things. Then about the issue of your results, I would say that you should use your BSc, because it is stated on the website that NCE or ND, HND, they are not accepted. So use your BSc. I can't remember what your second question is.
Okay.
So
All right. Thank
I
you
was
so
okay.
much. Move on to the next person now. Quickly, you can reach out to Ibukun if you have more questions. So is Adeyemo, who is your question directed to? Busala, who is your question directed to? Umar, who is your question directed to? The three of you, quickly.
Okay. My question is okay.
Who is your question directed to?
Okay, mine is
Mine is directed to Jason.
Jason. Is Jason still on the call? I think Jason had to do something. So for Jason, okay. So whose question is directed to Temi?
I.
Okay, please, 30 seconds.
All right. Thank you very much, Olumide, for this session. So I'll just go straight into it. Okay. I actually studied biochemistry for my undergrad, and I intend to apply for the food security masters. But the issue is that I really have little to no experience to whatsoever food security rather. But while during my undergrad, I did something related to quality assurance for a food producing company. So the question is that, is it okay to state in my essay that I have little experience in this part, but I want to go for this course because of this and this, or it's just okay to just not state that I have little to no experience and just go straight to why I want to study this particular course? Thank you.
Okay, Busola, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I think you should reach out to Ingi Laefa next on LinkedIn. So just when you send that message so that she can respond quickly, you can just say that you studied biochemistry, you want to apply for food security, and you are confused about how to. She was exactly in your situation when she was applying. So I think she can give you very direct how to spell her name now. She can give you very direct response to that. Not like I can't respond. I just think linking you up with her is better. Do you understand?
Okay.
Because she studied biochemistry and she was also in your situation and she got it. So
okay.
All right, thank you.
So thank you, Temi. Thank you, Busola. So the next person, Adeyemo, thereafter Rufai, thereafter Ajre, then Mike, no other person. So Adeyemo, you have the floor. 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you so much for this section. So my question is directed towards Ibukun Olua. So I already connected with you on LinkedIn. So but I would like to ask this question so that it will be, I won't ask much there. So I'm a graduate of industrial mathematics from the Federal University of Technology, Akure. That's FUTA. So I'm interested in data inequality and society. So my confusion is mainly about the leadership, because I have leadership experience in social impact.
So like when I was in school, I was in the student union, and over time I've been involved. I volunteer with NGOs and all of that. So, but the MS now is about data inequality, the intersection of data inequality. So should the my story should it be towards as a impact person or as a data person, or how do I link it up so that, because I feel like you said in introduction that the course is about the how data is used, in ensuring inclusion, in solving inequality, and making sure the
So
community
is that your
society is better.
question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So Ibukun, do you want to respond to that in like a minute?
All right, thank you. Yeah, Adeyemo, I would say that you can your story can be a blend of both impact and data. That is what I used in my application. I used both my personal story, impact, and my experience with data. So an example of how you can do that is look at using data or technology as a way to scale your impact, like the impact you want to make. You have the kind of impact, you have your target audience. What technology does it is scales. So for me, as a person with disability and wanting to work with people with disabilities, I was doing that traditionally before, and I realized that my target audience are in millions. Like we have millions of persons with disability. How do I scale that? I realized that I needed to work with data. That was the story I told in my application. So you can find a way to do that to tell your story. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Ibukun. So Dre Chooks, Chukwuka and Basi, please type your question in the chat, but in the chat. So Chooks, please quickly unmute and ask your question. Mike, also whoever goes first, just unmute and ask your question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Olumide. There are four basic compartments for business model. My question is to Solomon. I'm interested in the environmental sustainability. I understand time is fast spent here. I just want to ask if Mr. Solomon would be gracious enough. How best can we reach him? Can I reach him? So that I'm interested in the course you just graduated from. So how best can I reach you for now, Mr. Solomon? Thank you.
Okay, if you check the chat box, I initially included my LinkedIn profile. That's the best way you can actually reach me. But I will have to copy it again and paste on the chat box. So just send me a message on LinkedIn and I will respond. So, but please, due to the fact that currently I've been receiving a lot of message on LinkedIn, just be clear with what you actually want so that I'll be able to provide a very clear response for you. Pasted it on the
Okay, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So Dre Chooks, do you have a question you want to ask? Or it has been, I believe some of the questions should have been answered by now, but if you still have a question, now is the time. Dre Chooks,
Sorry,
you
please,
have the
can we
floor.
unmute? Is it me?
Okay, so Dre Chooks is not here. Okay, praise God. What's your question and who are you directing it to? Where are you directing it to?
Yes. Yeah, I'm directing it to you because I want to undertake a master's in entrepreneurship and innovation. But I just want to be clear. I have a non-for-profit where I drive sexual reproductive health and rights accessibility for women and try to bridge the reproductive health services gaps. And with what we've discussed here, I'm thinking African and international studies would be the most aligned program. But I really want to undertake the MSc in entrepreneurship and innovation because I want to expand my non-for-profit into a social enterprise by building a digital health solution platform. So
Okay,
I just want to know, am I safe? Am I safe to undertake the master's here if I try to use that as an explanation for undertaking the master's?
So as it depends on what your end goal is, literally, and what you want to achieve in the next maybe 1 or 2 years. So if the E&I course would actually help you achieve, what you already have in mind, depending on whatever it is that you plan to actually write in your essay, that would also matter, because you can't just say that you want to study AID or E&I and then you can't really back up why you want to study it and what you would actually be able to do with the knowledge that you get, right? So it still boils down to you reflecting on what exactly it is and what exactly would you say you really want to do in the next maybe 2 or 3 years, and which of the courses will actually help you get there. And how you can do that is just to check the course modules. Go to the University of Edinburgh's website, check the course modules, go through them. Some courses might look, entrepreneurship and innovation might look very exciting, but when you get into it, you might realize, oh, this is not for me. Maybe I can even learn some of these things online. Let me do AID. And you can also check AID, and then you're like, okay, maybe this is something I want to do later on. Let me do E&I first. So that is still something you have to decide upon. Just do more research. I believe with more research, you'll have more clarity on what which of the courses you might want to do.
Oh yeah, okay. I have not checked the African, so I'll check that. Lastly, please, I wanted to ask, are you open to reviewing some essays? Because my essay is like already ready. I don't know if I could forward for review.
You can send me a message on LinkedIn. I already have a lot of requests, but I would look into that.
Thank you so much.
And Rufai. So these are the last two people, and then because we've actually stretched our panelists, we stretched the age already. So Mbeke, do you want to go now? Or Rufai, please, whoever wants to you can unmute.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay.
Okay, good evening everyone. Sorry, I joined the call very late.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, so my question is, I needed to know benefit for online programs, because most of my programs actually are online programs, but no, I needed this international exposure, so I was trying to link some of my work to on campus programs, but then I know that I'm going to flow better if I'm to apply for online programs. So I don't know what would be the benefits of that online program. Thank you.
I think the core benefit of, if you want to study whichever course, is that you get to study the course at no cost. That should be the first benefit. So it depends on what course you want to study, whether it is on campus or online. Now the other benefits, basically the on campus and online, they have their own pros and cons. If you have strong ties, you have work that you're currently doing, engaged in, and you cannot spare 1 year away from Nigeria or your home country, then maybe online would be better. So that would be looking at a course within the online scholarships that you can actually just apply for. But figuring out whichever one you want to do, I would say it still comes down to knowing what course you want to study. So irrespective of whatever course you want to study, then you decide, oh, am I available to actually travel for 1 year to study on campus, or do I just want to do online? But basically with online, you get all the perks, all the benefits. It's still fully funded. You get your stipends, you get the supports that you need. But take note that it is not 1 year. Some are like 3 years or thereabouts. So just check. I believe all of this information is on the website as well. So the last person here is Umar Goucher. You have the floor, so we can. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity, ma. Please, my question is, I have a background in nursing and I want to transition to climate change finance and investment, because there are some gaps that healthcare personnel and something related to
Sorry, who are
climate
you
change.
addressing this question to?
Jason, and I don't think maybe he's around, but I'll just throw
Jason
a
is
question.
on there. Okay. So what's the question?
So my question is, how is my chance of getting admission to the University of Edinburgh? Like me studying nursing and somebody that I wanted to transition to climate change finance and investment. And is there a need of me like to go deep on my leadership skills related to climate change?
I believe we've answered some of these questions. I'm going to be sharing the recording of this this session, so you can feel free to go through some of the last question you asked has been answered in terms of how deep you want to go in terms of your leadership. But it's okay if you want to transition. It's okay if what you want to study, it's something you've never really done anything on. The core thing you need to take note of is just tell them why you want to study and what you hope to be able to achieve with that, right? So that would possibly help. right? I don't know if that answered your
Yeah,
question.
thank you, Jason.
All right, thank you so much. That is going to be the last for tonight. So basically, we'll be wrapping up the call. David, I can see you. I'm coming back to you, but we'll be wrapping up the call shortly. We've stretched the time, and I just want to say a big thank you. If you guys can just please use your favorite emoji to just react, let us show the appreciation. Let's just show our panelists, our speakers, the appreciation. It's been a lot. Taking, I think we planned for 1 hour, but it's been more than 2 hours already on a Sunday when you're meant to be resting and chilling. So, show some love. Basically, you guys I encourage you to, reach out to them on LinkedIn, right? Connect with them on LinkedIn. Also take note that they might not be able to respond immediately because they definitely, I can imagine that they definitely have so many requests coming in, but they will definitely respond to you. So thank you so much, Ibukun. Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you so much, Temitope, Solomon, Richard, Oluwatoyin. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your insights. It's been really, 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 really great having you here. So I'm not going to, so basically at this point, if you have other things you want to do, please feel free to, continue with the rest of your evening. But I will just answer Raji's question and then go through the last 2 slides that I have here for those that were asking about the interviews and the next steps. So we'll just wrap that up. And I plan to wrap up at in the next 6 minutes thereabouts. So Raji, if you have a question, quickly ask and I'll answer that. What's your question? David. Raji, can you hear me? Move on. So, yep. So now, basically, all that has been said literally has been summarized here and even much more beyond what has been identified here. So I won't really go into all of that, but once you get the slides, you'll be able to go through that. So what happens next is when you actually hit the submit button, you have to prepare for the interview, and most likely the interviews will be like a group interview, right? Any resource you would definitely get the team would share some resources with you that you can actually that will help you prepare for your interviews. I believe by now you should also have contacted references. David Raji, kindly mute. You should have contacted your references and have them ready or have your letter ready so that once they request, you can quickly send it to the team. Then basically the fact that you get the scholarship doesn't mean you won't have to apply for the course. You still have to apply for the course. So when you apply for the course, there's a possibility that you get an unconditional offer letter or you get a conditional offer letter. If you get a conditional offer letter, then that means there are some things you need to meet. There are some requirements you need to meet, which is most likely the English language test. So that is where you would be contacted. The school would inform you if you need to write an IELTS, because that's also one of the questions I've been getting. So not everybody might need to write an IELTS. I wouldn't have needed to write take the test because my school was part of the exemption list. But because my degree is over 5 years old, I had to take it. The TB test, everybody would need to take that. But when the time comes for that, you just take it and send the receipt, and then the team would reimburse you. Visa applications, they would actually support you all through that. Flight bookings, you would be supported through that. And if all things goes well, I wish you all great success in your applications, and then to see you in Edinburgh next year. So these are also resources that you can go through when you have the slides, and you would be able to go over that. I would update this because there are some other resources I found recently, so you should be able to get all the support that you need. And thank you so much for your time. It's been a stretch. We all wish you great success in your applications. Yeah, so basically, thank you so much for your time. For the recording, you will get the recording. I'm going to stop the recording shortly, so you get that via email tomorrow because it's already time is fast spent. And any other question, feel free to reach out to whoever it is you want to ask on LinkedIn, and they would respond. Thank you, guys. So I saw 2 people raising their hands. Do you still have a question you want me to go over? We are wrapping up now.
Yes,
Who is that?
David. I had like a network had issue. That was why I couldn't ask the other
Okay,
time.
okay. So you have 30 seconds.
Okay, so actually I hold a bachelor's of engineering in water resource and environmental engineering, and I have experience. I'm actually applying for environmental sustainability, and I have like experience in wastewater treatment, and I also have experience in like project. I've done like quite a number of projects, like 2 or 3 projects in environmental advocacy and climate change awareness. So I'm thinking of including all like this experience in my essay, or would you advise I just pick one and put it in?
I think you can split them depending on whichever essay you feel the experience would, really stand out for. You don't necessarily need to say everything that you've done. Definitely you've done a lot of things which are great, and possibly they also have their own impact. But just look at which one aligns better with your story and with the theme of the essay you're actually answering. So it's about quality, not quantity. So do not necessarily feel like you're selling yourself short if you do not talk about everything you've done. Just pick the strongest and the one that aligns better and use that. And I'm saying this because of what counts. But if you feel like you can merge everything into it, then all well and good. So Olufunke, the last person to ask the question tonight, you have the floor, and then we can move on. What's your question, Funke?
All right. Thank you very much for the insight, the tips. So grateful. I want to ask, concerning the question asked in one of the essays. So, if one is not actively working on any project, an idea at the moment, but one has actually worked on past projects and how do I put that in? I don't know, and that's actually confusing me in a way. Even though I'm not actively working on a project now, how do I go about it? Thank you.
Okay, I think someone had actually answered this. So maybe when you get the recording, you'll be able to listen again. But basically, if you do not have something you're currently working on, it's still better to talk about what you've done rather than talking about nothing at all. And if possible, if you want to link what you've done to what you still plan to do. So if what you've done already is something that maybe you still want to continue the work on it, maybe not now, but in the next 1 or 2 years, then you can also, mention that and include that. But it's a bit tricky because it says currently, but basically what I'll just advise is still, if you do not have something you're currently working on that aligns with the essay you're answering, you can still draw on what you've done in the past and see if there is a connection with what you want to do in the future. I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh, yes, it does. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you guys so much. You guys are DGs. We've been here since 5, and this is 6:24. So thank you all so much for staying tuned. I hope we've answered at least majority of the questions you might have, and I would see you guys. I hope to see you guys, or I hope to see more of your good news. I'm happy to announce, on LinkedIn in the next, few months. But at this point, I would just say all the best in your applications. Feel free to reach out to any other person in the panel that if you have any other question you want to ask or a follow up. And wishing you guys all the best. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank
Bye.
you very much. Please drop your LinkedIn this in on
Thank
the
you.
chat box.
Bye.
Okay, my LinkedIn is
Thank you,
just
Olumide.
Olumide.
Bye.
You're welcome.
It's on
Bye.
the chat box already. Airport drop a bell. Let me follow you before you.
All right, so I've dropped it. All right,
All right.
bye. Good night.
Bye.
Bye. You're welcome. All right, so I'm ending the call now. Bye, everyone. You're welcome.
All right. Bye.
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 Bye.